Thank you. Welcome, everyone, um, to Building Pan-African Financial Power. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Brothers and sisters, esteemed guests, welcome to today's session on Building Pan-African Financial Power. It is an honor to have you all here as we embark on this critical discussion about the future of Africa's financial landscape. So as we gather online, we recognize the immense potential that lies within our continent. And for too long, Africa's wealth has been influenced by external forces, leaving us dependent and underdeveloped. So it's time for us to reclaim our financial sovereignty and build institutions that serve the interests of the African people. Pan-African financial institutions have shown remarkable growth and resilience, not necessarily where we all want them to be, but they have shown some growth and resilience. With banks like EcoBank and Standard Bank expanding across the continent, enhancing financial inclusion and stability. So, for example, you find ECOWAS in Ghana, you have ECOWAS in Uganda, you have ECOWAS in Rwanda. I'm sure there's ECOWAS in Kenya and so on. The African Union's vision for institutions such as the African Central Bank, the African Monetary Fund, and an African Investment Bank underscores our commitment to economic integration and development. So what we'll do today is I will explore how these institutions can liberate us from neo-colonial control, mobilize Africa's resources for development. When we say African, let's remember our brothers and sisters in diaspora are also part of African resources, and unite our financial strength to compete globally. We will examine successful models, discuss challenges, and we'll also confront radical questions about transparency, accountability, and external interference. This is not just a discussion. We are hoping that it will be a call to action. So let's work together to build a financial infrastructure for a truly liberated and prosperous Africa. So thank you for your participation, and I think we all look forward to an engaging discussion today. So let us begin. We had hoped that we would get someone who would from amongst ourselves as Africans, as Brother Pigeon has shared the invite widely across a lot of WhatsApp groups. We were hoping that somebody who is a finance expert, if you like, would come forward and lead us in the discussion. Unfortunately, Brother Pigeon has not been able to get anyone to come and lead us in the discussion. So we shall ourselves have our own discussion. We will be our own experts. So, yeah, So, in breaking the chains of dependency and liberating Africa through Pan-African financial institutions, the problem we've had is that Africa's has had reliance on external financial aid, which has hindered our economic development and our sovereignty. So I think the key question for us is our financial sovereignty, which means that Africa needs to establish robust Pan-African financial institutions that can help break this dependency by providing mechanisms for fiscal and monetary coordination, facilitating cross-border trade and investment, and reducing reliance on external loans. And I think you will all agree that key institutions in this endeavor must be the African Central Bank or an African Central Bank to manage monetary and exchange rate policies across Africa. We need an Africa Monetary Fund because the IMF is not really helping Africa. And the AMF will support our monetary cooperation and provide financial stability. We also need an African Investment Bank to finance development projects and stimulate economic integration. And then finally, a Pan-African stock exchange to develop African financial markets and facilitate investment. So these are 4 key institutions that I think needs to be established, which the AU has set out in its Pan-African Financial Institutions document. There are things that need to be done. And so we have to fund our own development. And if we're going to fund our own development, it means we have to mobilize African resources. And that means mobilizing domestic resources is crucial for financing African industries, infrastructure, and social programs. And this can be achieved through domestic savings, encouraging savings within African economies. We need more savings, investment in local industries, fostering investment in sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and technology. And then the regional economic communities, the RECs, must be utilized to pool resources and coordinate economic policies. So at the end of the day, it's about our financial sovereignty. The idea that Africa, when it is united, strong, and strong, that as Africans respect themselves and others respect Africans, as we liberate the continent, unite and develop the continent, that at the heart of it all is our financial sovereignty. And that requires the power of collective action to unite our financial strength. And we think that collective action can create a powerful economic bloc through economic integration. And that's not just the regional communities, but the African continental free trade area that we've looked at in the past. Then the common financial frameworks, because there's a need to implement common financial policies and standards across the region, across the whole of Africa. And then the Pan-African banks must expand their role to drive financial integration. Now, are there any models for success? Well, according to the research, the ECOWAS free trade area is a successful model because it's demonstrated effective regional economic integration. Some of the people will disagree, considering what has happened to Burkina Faso, Mali, and the others in the AES, the Alliance of Sahelan States. And then some would argue that the Pan-African banks like EcoBank are also successful because EcoBank, for instance, has expanded financial services across Africa. Well, are there challenges? Yes, there are challenges and opportunities. What are the challenges? We still have 55 different currencies on the continent. That can't be good. So there are currency disparities. Apart from the fact that some of our new colonial territories are still under French central bank control, still using the French franc. But apart from that, there are different currencies, and these currencies have disparities. So managing these diverse currencies across Africa is not easy. So that's something that needs to be dealt with as a challenge. Then there's economic integration. We are still balkanized. There's a need to overcome differences in economic policies and development levels. So the economies of Africa are still not integrated. And then there is still external interference, protecting institutions from external influence. So we need to protect our institutions from external influence. What are the opportunities? Well, there's the opportunity for increased economic stability, and that can happen if monetary policies are coordinated. We understand that the finance ministers of all the African countries are going to be meeting very soon. President Ruto told us in his address about a week and a half ago. So we are hoping that they'll come up with policies, or at least some way forward for coordinating monetary policies. Another opportunity is enhanced trade and investment. That is still a big opportunity. The African Free Trade, Continental Free Trade Area, that still needs to be tapped into, and it will facilitate cross-border transactions. And then, so we need more of that, and then reduce dependency on external financial aid and loans. So a lot of Africa's resources is being stolen. Some leave the continent through the what people will call the black market, and multinationals are not paying tax. They see tax as a drain on their resources, so they do everything not to pay tax, as you know. So they pay bribes, they bribe their way. Some of them are investing in Africa and have tax holidays. I mean, why would we give tax holidays to already rich multinationals? I don't understand. They don't need tax holidays. What they need is to pay tax. So then there's a need for reduced dependency. The money that is low, that is given to us as aid, is our own money, which have been locked up in offshore territories, which, as you know, are criminal networks. And then some of the loans that are given to us, again, our own stolen money, that is then repackaged and loaned to us as if they think we don't know. And they think we don't know all these things. But some of us can't act, as you know, because we are not in office. So that's why there's a need for this just not to be a discussion, but also to be action oriented. So for those of us who can run for office and so on, let's run for office and work with those also in office so that we can reduce dependency. Dependency is a big thing. Dependency on external financial aid and loans. If you can't pay your external debt, you have a moratorium on external debt. You call your creditors, you tell them you can't pay, and then you reschedule. You prioritize your own life first before you worry about paying external creditors. We can't just keep paying external creditors, external loan sharks, whilst our schools are unfunded, our women give birth, on the hard floor of hospitals. Our girls have to walk miles to fetch water and all that. And the hard life that Africans have been reduced to, which Nkrumah warned us all about. So there are radical questions we must confront. On the AU's the African Union's own role. The African Union must play a pivotal role by accelerating the establishment of the Pan-African financial institutions and provide political support for their implementation. But we know that can't happen unless the African people are mobilized. But the African people themselves are not talking about the most important thing on the desk, on the table, which is their unification. They are not talking about that. And the reason they are not talking about that is because they are all preoccupied with how to how to make a living, because they are all suffering. The ordinary African is suffering. How to make a living, working under the hot sun, selling stuff sometimes just to make a living. So they don't have time to address the important issues. And as Sister Tapoa told us some time ago, we those here discussing these things is a kind of privilege, because clearly we've had enough food to eat. Otherwise, we won't be here talking about African Union for financial control and all that. It's because we've had food to eat and we're not hungry. The other question we must confront is transparency and accountability. Ensuring transparency involves implementing robust governance structures. Brother Pigeon has in the past told us that the democratic governance we have on the continent does not meet the minimum standards of what democratic governance is, and that it falls short of it. Brother Kama has told us that even given the institutions in place, if the leaders just follow the constitutions that are already in place, at least things will change. They don't even follow the constitutions and the protocols that are in place. And he should know, because he was the inside, saw everything from the security perspective. The other question we must confront is the currency disparities. And Nkrumah laid it out long ago that we need to have one African currency. Gaddafi tried it and he was murdered. And so far, we haven't seen any African leader that is leading it. They forget we will all die anyway. So if you don't die today, you'll die tomorrow anyway. So why don't you do what you believe in? At least if you die, you died doing something you believe in. Because it's better to be, some say, it's better to be a slave. It's better to be dead than to be a slave. Others think, well, it's better to be a slave than to die, So it was a poet who said, give me liberty or give me death. We don't want anybody to die, of course, but sometimes you have to fight for what you believe in. So this currency issue must be dealt with. All our currencies are not strong. Our currencies are not strong. 4,000 against $1 or £1, 15 this against £1. It's a joke. The currencies have no power. They have no strength. They are not backed by anything. So we need to have a gold standard, return to gold standard. We need to revisit our financial leaders, and the ministers have to revisit all these things and come up with serious policies, because right now they are all just joking and wasting everybody's time. So the other radical question we need to deal with is protection from external influence. That's another radical question that we need to confront, because strengthening institutional frameworks and fostering international partnerships that respect African sovereignty can help mitigate external interferences. But the world respects power. I don't mean military power. I mean economic power. Why is China respected today so much? Because of economic power. China is not going around fighting anybody. China is not starting wars anywhere. China is not setting up bases in anybody's country. China just wants to set up a belt, the former Silk Road, before the Suez Canal was built, and shorten trade from Europe to the Far East. Before that canal was built, there used to be a trade route through China. And China says, okay, now we want to revitalize that and make the world a wealthy place. The British are upset. They've called a conference saying that what China wants to do threatens them. How is you trying to be wealthy for yourself? How is that a threat to somebody else? Huh? So Africa wants to be wealthy. We are a threat. We want to use our own resources, African resources for the African people. Somebody says, well, it's a threat to me because it means I can't continue to steal your money. I can continue to steal your gold. I can continue to steal your diamond. So then you are a threat. When did looking after yourself become a threat to someone else? But that's the kind of world we live in. So then the radical question we need to confront is the need for protection from external interference. And that has to happen through a collective security structure or protocol. And again, Nkrumah called for it. Nkrumah told us that we need an African military. Even the Ugandan leader who they say so many bad things against. Also, emphasize the need for us to have a continental army to protect us. To protect us. So that's the other radical question we need to address. So this call to action emphasizes the need for collective efforts and strategic planning. And strategic planning, not the market, because free markets don't plan anything. All they just do is loot. All these conditionalities, the free market is free market. The free market is a fraud, by the way, as you all may or may not know. No, the free market did not develop any country. There's no market. There's no country on this earth that was developed by the free market. So leaving your country to free markets is just sheer stupidity. If you want your country to develop, you have to plan it. And planning has always been the way it's done. Those who want to steal your resources will lie to you and say, just leave it to the markets. Somehow your country will develop. It doesn't work like that. So we need to plan. So we need strategic planning to establish and sustain Pan-African financial institutions, ultimately leading to more economic independence and a prosperous Africa. So I'll bring my short presentation to an end by saying that if Africa is to be independent and prosperous, we have to take control of our money. We have to take control of our money, and our people have to focus on money. They should not focus on poverty reduction and all that nonsense. That is just to distract them. They should focus on wealth and money. That is where their mind should be. And that means that we have to also get involved in some kind of campaign. And that's why Pigeon has said it's a call to action. This is a call to action as well. So let me bring my presentation to an end, or my talk, as you may put it, and open the floor for this discussion. So to summarize, we are here to discuss Pan-African financial institutions. That's what we're here to discuss, how they can liberate us from new colonial control and exploitation, so that we can fund our own development through the power of collective action and recognize our challenges and find ways in which we can overcome them. And that means the AU that is being modernized will find ways to fund the African Union so that it stops depending on criminals to fund it. If you let criminals fund the AU, what do you expect? Because they will engage in criminal acts. And they're all criminals, as we all know. It's not me saying it. Even they themselves know they are criminals. So that brings I haven't mentioned anybody's name, by the way. I haven't mentioned anybody's name. All I said is they are criminals. As Bob Marley said, if the cap fits you, you can wear it. But I didn't mention your name. So the floor is now open, brothers and sisters. There's no hand up, so I'll just wait for hands to go up so that we can have a discussion. Thank you. So whilst I'm waiting for hands to go up, maybe we should play the African anthem.
Brother Kama, send this up.
Yeah, okay. Come on. Your hand is up.
I think
share your thinking, and then I'll play the anthem. Thank you.
Is it question time or comments? I had a question.
Sorry?
I think mine is a question.
To whom?
To the to the topic.
Okay. All right. Let's hear there are a lot of experts here. Let's hear the question.
Yeah, it's actually on the chat, but I can speak
in the chat.
it.
Okay, let me have a look at the chat. Is that Tapua's question or your question?
Mine.
So what's your question? The question I can see is a Tapua. I can't see let me see. Oh, just wondering, is Trump withdrawal of aid not an opportunity for liberation? That's a good question. Well, since we ourselves want an end to this aid thing, I would say that's a good thing. Do you not think so?
Maybe I can add on that question.
Do you not think so? Hmm?
Can I add on? Of course,
yes,
I was wondering.
Please.
Like I said, we're talking about being liberated, because the fears has been that if any of our leaders would want to stand, against the West, their fears was that they are going to be assassinated.
Brother Kama, Nkrumah told us the secret of life is to have no fear. Why are they afraid? Why are they afraid?
No, that's my worry. That's my worry. Now, I'm looking at the current situation.
Brother Kama, how can a man who wants to feed his wife and children say he's afraid of the lion outside the door? If there's a lion outside your door and you are afraid to go out and face the lion and feed your wife and children, then you are going to starve.
You just gave an example of Gaddafi.
Anyway,
please, you just gave an example of Gaddafi that when he tried to, to do something for Africa, that was the end. Now, my contribution was that
he knew, and the African leaders, I don't want to mention names, he was betrayed. He was betrayed by our own African leaders who were making phone calls. We know them. Who were making phone calls and exposing where he was hiding. We know who did that. If somebody is hiding under your bed in your house, in one of the beds in your house, and people come to we want this person, if you don't show them where the person is hiding, they will not find the person. But if you betray the hiding place of your own brother or sister who is hiding under the bed, maybe in a bunker somewhere in the house, then of course the enemy will kill him. No external coup has ever been successful on the continent without our own brothers and sisters playing a part. Why did Mugabe stay so long in power? Mugabe, whatever his faults are, I don't see any, but some don't do. Fine. Whatever his faults, why didn't the military remove Mugabe? Why? So Mugabe was in office all these years. It was only in the last days that even that he wasn't killed. He was just put under house arrest. They didn't kill him. Understand? So the point is that, in fact, if you remember, Brother Kama, that a group of criminals went to Zimbabwe to make a coup. You remember? And one of them was a son of a British Prime Minister. You know the story. And they were arrested. They were arrested. Why were they arrested? Because the Zimbabwean people were not prepared for that nonsense. Anyway, go on, brother. Come. I don't know what they are afraid of. If you are afraid, why become president? Because Africa needs Africa needs people who bring solution. If you know you are afraid, then please don't become president. Stay somewhere. So those who are not afraid can become president, so they can make changes. Like the young man in Burkina Faso. If you are afraid, sit somewhere. So those who are not afraid can move forward and change the content. Brother Kama, please continue.
That is my point. That is my point. Actually, that with the situation we have now, that Trump has exposed our weakness. That we are so dependent on the West, even for our own survival. Then I was thinking that what you should have been thinking if you are the real, leaders that has
Kama,
potential.
Brother Kama.
Can I finish my thoughts?
Brother Kama, but that is not true. That's not
Can I
true.
finish my thought?
But yeah, Brother Kama, that's fine. But I can remember it is the leaders who are dependent on them, not the people of Africa. Yeah, please carry on and finish your thought.
Hello?
Brother Kama, yeah, carry on. We are listening.
Yeah, I know. It's the leaders. Maybe I can now just come to another question now. Do we have a platform where we send all these discussions so that the leaders that we have can be able to listen to them? Or these discussions that we have are just ours on our YouTube, and then, because you said this is a call for action. Who do we give these ideas to? Because I expected by now that, African leaders were strategizing how to survive on their own and take advantage of the situation, actually, to say they start putting institutions and, build capacity that they're able to manage their own affairs than depending on the West. Thank you.
So what's your answer to your own question? The first question, what's your answer? I see Brother Pigeon has shared something on the screen.
Let me get my glasses, I see.
I can read it for you. It says, debt is neo-colonialism, in which colonizers have transformed themselves into technical assistants. We should rather say technical assassins. They present us, this is from a Marxist platform, by the way. They present us with financial, sorry, I'm reading that. Why was it being moved? Yeah, I'm reading that, sorry. Can you return to, they present us with financing, with financial backers, as if someone's backing could create development. We have been advised to go to these leaders. We have been offered nice financial arrangements. We have been indebted for 50, 60 years and even longer. That means we have been forced to compromise our people for over 50 years. So that is the reading. My challenge with these readings, the way it's been put as if Pigeon, Kama, Sister Chizomo, Brother Joseph, Brother Kwame, Sister Ida. It's as if it is we who kind of allow these things to happen. When we are not in office, we don't run the state, we don't run the military.
Brother Kwame,
yeah.
This is a speech by Thomas Sankara, so you need to get it into context.
Yes, and I'm saying that the way it is put sometimes, it's as if we, the people, have allowed this. I don't think we have.
Why don't we stop debts from government? If your government borrows loans, what do? Do you stop it? If your government borrows loans like in Ghana, what have you done as a person to stop it?
Well, if I control the army like in Burkina Faso, then I'll do what they did. I don't have arms.
But you vote that leader to go borrow and you ask for harm to remove him.
Say that again?
You vote that leader to go borrow in the West, then you ask for arms to remove that leader whom you voted to go borrow.
Arms to remove the leader.
You're saying if you had arms like Burkina Faso, you could have done something, but you had votes that you could vote that leader to go borrow.
But Brother PG, you have one vote like anybody else. even if you vote against that government, you just have one vote. Sister Ida, your hand is up.
Yes, I wanted to make a comment to Brother Karma when he said, where do you send these things apart from maybe YouTube, your YouTube platform? But I want to tell him that I was really surprised one day when people were actually sending on one of the groups I'm in, which has links to East Africa and the things that happen around there. They all seem to be very much a group. Either I'm not sure if it was our recordings 1 week came up, and also they also posted the link that we were having these Saturday conversations, and I was quite shocked because they're a very opinionated group who a lot of them seem to be in high positions and stuff like this. You ask why am I there? Well, I'm being my troublesome usual self. But so I say to Brother Karma that you never know where these recordings are going, and that you shouldn't just think it's oh, we're just making noise and it's hidden noise on a Saturday. It is being spread in its own way, maybe more quietly than we know, but it is going places. So whatever you may say today, suddenly you may hear it again at another time. So that was my comment.
No, interesting point. So when you have a meeting like this and you discuss Pan-African financial institutions, and you're even trying to get a speaker, you can't even get a speaker to speak on it. And that tells me that there is a death of the topic, that people are not discussing the topic. It's not a topic that people are discussing. And so it makes sense, it's either that if someone can find such a video on our YouTube channel, that then they will share it, and we won't even know that it's being shared. So thank you for drawing our attention.
Who listens to these things. In fact, I think when I have to say that when we first started and it was the thought of broadcasting it out was very, very scary. It was very scary because it was like, oh, we're rocking the boat. Are we sure that what we're saying won't come back, or what we're saying won't be risky? But it's become almost a norm, because nowadays I challenge other groups who refuse to put their recordings on a platform where others can hear it, because I think to make excuses that people may not want to have their name, this or that, you don't have to have the big discussions, but what people say as the main topic could be cut or could be put on. And I think it's wrong for us to keep our ideas just to ourselves, like we're some little we're plotting something. No, we're discussing things that need to be discussed. So Brother Karma, I think that though we don't know where it's going, it's something, even the fact that we're strong enough to discuss it with each other is really quite something. Because a lot of people won't open out their discussions for others to listen to, and that's why all these horrible things happen, and you just wonder, how do they happen? It's because people don't speak up. So thank you. I'm going to be quiet now. Thank you.
Yes, they are.
I think I brought to that question. I was just responding to Brother Kwame when he said these leaders, they are getting aid for themselves. Since this is a call to action, we cannot stop, talking about our leaders, trying to encourage them that now this is an opportunity when these leaders should now come together, and see what they can do to serve their own countries correctly.
Let me put my hand up again.
If you take Kenya, for instance, which would you prefer, Ruto in office or Pidgin in office? Which one
Come
would you
again?
prefer?
That is very unfair. That is very
No, I'm
unfair,
asking.
Brother Karma.
No, I'm asking.
Come again?
Because if you ask me, I'm saying if you take Kenya, who would you prefer to be in office? I'm not asking you to answer the question. Pigeon
No,
in
I'll
office
answer.
or
I'll answer.
Ruto in office. If you ask
No.
me,
The truth is that the person who is in the office now is Ruto. And now we need to deal with the person who is in the office, you know,
but
because
I
there's
asked the
nothing we
question.
can do before an election, unless you want to do it by force. Before an election, there's nothing we can do. It means we need to conscientize if there's advocacy that we need to do to this person who is in the office. We need to do it until such a time that, you know, elections come, that we activate the community that, you know, they should look at a leader. You know, you give them ideas of the type of leader that they should put in office. But for now,
then come on.
it
Then
is
you have
him
faith in
who is
liberal
in
and
the office.
conservative leaders.
We need to change our leaders because, you know, they're still in the office. What do we do?
Yeah, but I'm saying you have faith in liberal and conservative leaders like Ruto. Then
No, they can change.
Do you think they will change?
They can. It's possible.
But look at what's happened in Kenya. Do you think Ruto has changed?
No. He hasn't changed yet. But, you know, change, when you define change, itself, we define the significant alterations in behavior patterns, norms, and values over time. You know, he's in the office. There are laws that are in place. There are policies that have been put in place. So it's a gradual process. So we need not to stop talking to these leaders. You know, who knows? Maybe the people, they cheat the people even in the next elections. They go and win the election again. You know, we should continue talking to them.
Yeah,
Perhaps they can change.
Yeah, well, thank you for your point. Sister Ida, you wanted to come back.
I did, because it reminds me of the end of our discussion on Thursday when we were reading the book. And I think you made a comment about the fact that, about people being army and officers, you know, and stuff like that. And I think I reminded you that a lot of Africa has had coups and army officers in charge. And I brought up the fact that I think that there is a difference between at least Burkina Faso's army officer, in that, and somebody even made a comment today to me, you know, like a private WhatsApp, saying that yes, while people are new, they have that, they seem to show good signs, and they were sort of reminding me of Jerry Rawlings, but the thing they said was that power corrupts as it goes along. And I said to you on Thursday that I think the difference, because we've had so many coup leaders in Africa, I think the difference is how they go about their change in the first place, and how they're thinking. The way they think at the beginning is crucial. And yes, power does corrupt people. But what I like about what I'm seeing at the moment is the amount of money that is being put into the people of the country and to the establishments of the country. If you want to be crooked, you're out. And that's what I think is really interesting. So though I agree that power does corrupt, I think how people go about it at the beginning and continue is very important. Sorry. Thank you.
So link what you said then to Pan-African financial institutions. In terms of putting money into the country.
I think that people need to be put on trial. I think there's a trial. I don't know which country it is at the moment. And I was really shocked, but I saw it today. I think there are 8 army people in the army who ran away from frontline duties, and they've been sentenced to death. To me, that is extreme. Death is extreme. But I think that people need to be taken to courts. They need to be held up for what they've done. And recovery of stolen goods needs to take place. So That's all I can say, linking it to Pan-African organizations. If people are caught, they should be taken to court and they should have to pay back.
Remember, I remember with soldiers, they have their own military courts, yeah?
Well, that's what happened. There was a military court and they've been sentenced to death. But to me, I think death is extreme. In fact, somebody was telling me about, somebody was telling me about something that I hear, maybe I shouldn't say the Jamaican Prime Minister, but is being rumored in Jamaica that all these people who are being deported back, if they get caught doing something bad, there should be a shoot to kill policy. To me, death is too extreme for any of this. Too extreme. Whether it's a military death or whether it's a civilian death, too extreme. But I do think that people should be taken to court and things should be taken back off those who have stolen. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam,
yes, brother Kishan.
I'm dying to share my thinking.
Yes, please go on.
I'll start by asking, do we need Pan-African financial institution? Why do we need them? Because I'll be open at a startup a bit before you get the response. Let me put this to context. We have been talking about an example of Burkina Faso, for example, under Traore, who has been able to use the national resources to nationalize them so that the people of Burkina Faso could own them and use those resources so that they can then sell their gold and their product to fund their economy. Do they need a Pan-African institution to use in order to fund the economy while they have the resources? Second thing, in that line as well, is when we talk of financial institutions, for example, we are talking about those financial institutions like banks where we can put paper currency, which is basically purely from the West, and I don't think those banks can put our mineral or our gold inside the banks. Probably you have to convert our golds and minerals to put them in the bank so that that bank can then provide whatever you call it financial paper trails so that we can then fund our institutions. In that line, in that thinking, I can say that probably the biggest problem is not even the Pan-African financial institutions. The biggest problem in this line is how do we use our resources in order to benefit our people. Traore doesn't need a Pan-African institution to sell the gold. The market for gold is open even to the whites and anybody else who want to sell it or buy it. But all you need is how we can take control of the resources so that we can use it for our benefit. But in the other line, I'll say as well, we need Pan-African institutions, for example, financial institutions, in line to what Nkrumah is proposing here in this statement. Nkrumah proposed that we have a commission to work out a continental-wide plan for a unified or a common economic and industrial program for Africa. And they said they should include proposal of 2. 1, a common market for Africa, which we had discussed some times back, African currency and African monetary zone, and African central bank. I think basically what we need at our continent today is African central bank. Not so-called country central banks, which you know very well, and they are controlled by, I don't know, Federal Bank of US and the rest. We need an African central bank that can only keep an African currency. Not an African central bank or a Pan-African financial institution that will be keeping the dollars, the pounds, the sterlings, and the rest in African banking. But rather an African central bank that then can keep an African currency and can control an African free market and the monetary zone. The aspect of course, our leaders going to borrow from the West. And we say that the Western banks, the BRICS, the IMF, and the rest will exploit them. I would say is an honest foolishness from our leaders who cannot see what Traore is seeing in the resources of Africa, who cannot see what Nkrumah saw in the resources in Ghana to develop Ghana, but rather running for the West money in exchange with our resources. As the Sankara said, we go in the West and they come as if they are technical assistants, when in reality they are technical assassins. Their money do not come in good terms. Look at what IMF caused in Kenya. When African and young people from Kenya went against to actually oppose IMF, is because we went for a banking institution that is not pro-African and were coming with their own regulation, their own proposal, that don't care about our interest. The only reason why you, Brother Kwame, should go and borrow is maybe because when you have a problem. But you cannot go to borrow to a friend who will tell you that if you fail to repay, I want to take your child or your wife in exchange to you repaying. Or if I give you the money, ensure that your kids don't eat. In African setup, support and calling for request of help was not to be seen as a punishment that must be cast on a stone that you must repay for it. Then we need, as you say, we need a Pan-African institution, financial institution, but we must look beyond that institution. Who is that? We can have black Africans as managers. Even the current banks in Africa, in Kenya, Commercial Bank, Cooperative Bank, those Eco Bank, Barclays Bank in Africa, are controlled by Africans. But do they really think in Afrocentric way? Do their policies think about the welfare of the people? Or they want to loan us money with the mentality of the West and they'll come take everything if you fail to repay? So beyond an institution, we need a mental change that then can reshape how we use our resources. And I think in order to develop Africa and use our resources correctly, we don't actually just need a financial institution. Some have been having the names Pan-African and Pan-African. Well, there's totally nothing Pan-African in their so-called economics or their banking or their so-called financial institutions. All of them are almost West. You know very well African Development Bank, basically supported by who? Majority of the West. As mobilize Pan-Africans and Africans in diaspora to donate and support, where are they putting the money? To those so-called institutions, financial institutions, which only have a name Pan-African, with nothing as a spirit of Pan-Africans in them. They just actually operate like Western banking system with the name Pan-African in them. Just the same way other universities are here called Pan-African University with nothing absolutely Pan-African in them. So I think that's where I want to put my context to, that I support an African central bank, rather than those so-called African financial, whatever financial institutions. I rest my case.
But isn't that what is meant though by the AU? When the
Which AU
talks about Pan-African institutions, financial institutions.
AU that itself is not funded by Africa.
Sorry?
How can AU talk about African institutions while themselves they don't have money from Africa, it's from the West?
What I'm saying is that the African Central Bank is one of the institutions that the AU document mentions. Yeah?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. They mention other institutions like African Monetary Fund and so on. But yeah. Okay. Let's hear the African anthem and then we'll continue.
Mindset change key.
Tuungane sote na tushereke pamoja ushindi kwa ukombozi wetu. Tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu.
Brother Joseph, you have your hand up. Brother Joseph? Brother Joseph?
Yeah, I'm trying to speak. So,
yeah, share your thinking.
Yeah. Am I being heard now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Welcome.
Okay.
We haven't had you. We haven't seen you for a long time. So it's
Yes,
good to
well,
it's good to have you back.
Well, the thing about it is that I swallowed my pride, might say, or my resistance to come back here because my last experience here was very awful. Even after I was assaulted, I was pursued and told.
You need to unmute yourself, Brother Joseph. Brother Joseph, you need to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
So, okay, are you hearing me now? I was having problem with
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you now.
Yeah, I was saying that fortunately I stayed away because I was assaulted. I was called all kinds of names by people who was when I was in the last. Yeah.
In this meeting.
The last time when I gave the presentation and I asked the question, are we going to be indifferent or are we going to be in solidarity with the woman? And the kind of I couldn't believe the kind of experience. What people had said to me. But anyway. Anyway,
I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't realize that was why.
No. I think we miss opportunities. We miss opportunity to be strategic. There are certain times when we need to be strategic, when we need to center ourselves around issues that are going to help all of us. And I think we missed an opportunity in the last American election.
Yeah.
Having said,
Brother Joseph,
that,
Brother Joseph,
Brother
Joseph, before you continue, can I also say that it's important that even when we disagree with others, that we let them speak freely and not put our point in a way that they feel personally attacked. So on behalf of CSG, I would like to apologize if that is how you felt and that is what happened. Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Two things. One, I wasn't allowed to finish my presentation. One, and then people pursued me even in my phone, and they called me on WhatsApp. I'm not calling me, but text me saying all kind of stuff. Anyway, but
really?
I'm not on that. I've swallowed my pride.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I've been able to think. And one of the reasons why I'm coming here today is like the onslaught of but of course some of the same thing I was hoping that people would have happened to us based on the result of the election is happening now. And one of the things that prompted me to come back this week is the onslaught on South Africa. We cannot allow such things to happen. That's where we have to our voices. We have to have real conversation over that. South Africa have had problems just as Zimbabwe in terms of settling the land issue. We criticized Mugabe when he tried to resolve it. Now South Africa, even though this is even a mediocre approach they're doing, but at least it's a beginning. And here comes the mighty man. Aiming at South Africa, and I think that with solidarity has to come in, and we lacked that. We had lacked solidarity with the diaspora in America in the last American election. Anyway, but also we need to also have a way that information could be shared easily. Right now in Grenada, yesterday, I had one of those guys from Africa, West Africa, Dangote, starring in our independence. He's presented as the richest man in Africa and so on. And these people are they're interested in the welfare of African people themselves. And we need to be able to call them out. In fact, he's organizing, you've got Grenada to agree to organize some big meeting of the African Import-Export Bank later in July. We need to to help people understand that those people who are influencing situation does not have our interest, and they're just further perpetuating new colonialism and and imperialism. We need to, and that's why we need to be deep when we doing our analysis and so on. Not just, from an intellectual point of view, but to be able to make the connection, which I think we don't really get here a lot. So, in the context of that, and also what is happening in the Congo, I would have thought that this week we would have either discussed that because, and thanks, Virgin, for sending me that information on that meeting they had in Tanzania. I will pass it on to the authorities here, because these are information that those guys don't get. They don't get it. So we need to be able to have a way for when information like that, because, sometime in the 90s, Grenada allegedly facilitated a peace talk with the rebels in the Congo on some peace thing, although it was a sham. Some crook from America brought money laundering and brought some of those folks there. The BBC attempted to cover it, and there was really nothing behind it. It was just about laundering more money by this guy. So what I'm saying is that we need to connect the dots and be able to make the connection. Now, in terms of the financial situation, I think we cannot, bearing in mind that central banks are a creature of Western imperialism, we need to find another way to think about how can we regulate, how can we mobilize resources and so on. Because one time I read that two of they say the case or their sort of success was the CFA franc, the union with the CFA franc and the Eastern Caribbean currency. But all these two institutions or these two setups was engineered by the same imperialists. And in the case of Eastern Caribbean currency, it is pegged to the US dollar. And the US dollar, we know, is nothing but a piece of paper. We need to also find and think about how can we leverage the reconfiguration of the world, like with the Brexit, the BRICS, and so on, and other formation that can help us to have some leeway. And I do think that with all that is happening by that criminal in the White House, we should look inward right now and strategically how we could align ourselves with others who are seeking to dismantle this system. But unfortunately, we need to get a little more understanding of economics and politics in context. Thank you for now.
Yeah, thank you very much. Brother Joseph, just so you know, for the future, myself, Brother Pigeon, Sister Ida, Sister Myra, Sister Tapua, if you like, those, if you like, even though I'm the chair, the leadership of CSG. And so if something like this happens again, you need to reach out to one of us, because we were not aware. I was not aware that you were pursued from the meeting and had calls with respect to the elections in America. So that's just so that you know. And anybody here who is the target of attacks because they come to our meeting, you need to let us know so we know what to do. Okay, so thank you, Brother Joseph, for bringing that to our attention.
Yes, somebody had me, I think Sister Ida had mentioned something about Jamaica, and I want to confirm, yes, the guy and the wholeness. In fact, I was very incensed when I heard he said, the people coming back, and these were some of the things I was trying to highlight to folks that would happen, which is causing a real problem to Caribbean islands right now. Not only Caribbean, even to South America, Brazil and so on, although they're big. where he says he threatening the folks. When you come, either you behave in a way or we kill you. Either he said a judge, you'll be before a judge, or they basically say the symmetry. I mean, what kind of leader that is? This is a sellout man. We know he cooperated with Israel. I mean, but you see, the press, I mean, or the media paying these folks as good folks. And that's where the connection, having connection with reasonable people could sort of set the record straight. I mean, and the wholeness is in the pocket of, in fact, when Trump was there the first time around, he was one of those that was willing to work along with Trump to invade, I mean, to bomb the hell out of Venezuela and also continue to squeeze Cuba.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Joseph. With respect to Trump, and what South Africa is going through and so on, as far as I know, I stand to be corrected. Trump can only be in office for 4 years, and you can't make America great again in 4 years. What has happened to America has been a process. It didn't start yesterday. It didn't start 4 years ago. If you listen to some of their own commentators, you can see that this has been a process that has been ongoing as far back as the 1980s, when American dominance around ended. So this is so Trump cannot make America great again in 4 years, but Trump will do what Trump will do, and Brother Ras Pala has in the past kind of laid out some of the things he'll be doing. But as we know, it will not succeed. Not because we are saying so, but because American commentators themselves are saying that what he's doing will hurt America. But coming back to your point again, Brother Joseph, thanks for letting us know. And please, in the future, draw our attention to something like that. And just for the rest of us, which is not our policy for anybody to be chasing anyone and pursuing anyone on a one-to-one basis about what they've shared in our class. That is not what we are about. And so we would like to discourage that kind of behavior. Thank you very much. Brother Glenroy, you have your hand up. Brother Glenroy, you have your hand up.
Sorry about that. I put an extension on my headphone, and it appears not to be allowing me to speak. So I've just had to change that over.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. Greetings. Disappointing to hear that anyone would feel the need to carry on a conversation outside the meeting. I'm not sure I got the gist of what that consists of, but I hope Elder Joseph can manage it and deal with it. I raised my hand really to I thought for a moment you were going to say all we need to do is survive Trump for 4 years. But he can do a lot of damage in 4 years. If some of the horrors of the deportation does take place, it's hard for people to recover from that. If you think about people who are probably living illegally, get a knock on the door in the middle of the night, they may have some savings and indeed may have bought properties and cars and whatever, and they're just going to get dragged away. Windrush deportation on speed. So, and he can do a lot in 4 years. I don't know if the numbers they're talking about. I mean, obviously, we've seen things going to South America. We've heard reference to Caribbean and so on. And funny enough, Elder Ida, one of the things that other commentators were saying was how positive it was of the Jamaican Prime Minister to say, oh, don't worry about it, come back to Jamaica, etc., etc. But you rightly identify there are lots of people within the criminal community from Jamaica, like in England, who are in America, and they will want maybe target also for deportation, which means the Jamaican authority have a plan of how they're going to deal with any criminal activity, and it's never pleasant with the Jamaican authority. So, it's right for people to look at that and say, is the Jamaican collaborating with the American in order to eliminate people? And maybe they are. So I think there needs to be a plan of action, especially by the American, especially by the Africans in America, around Trump. The problem is that it's clear that a lot of them may have voted for this nightmare, and may not be willing or even able to dislodge themselves from that reality that they have actually created the problem. So I think that it is going to be a problem over the next 4 years. I don't even think, at one point I was comparing this with, we survived Thatcher, so what's the problem? Why can't we survive Trump? And Thatcher was what, 10, 4, I can't remember how many years, but certainly wasn't 4 years. So that
18.
18, okay. I'm trying to forget it, Sister Ida, it was horrible, that horrible long period of time. So it is possible to survive it, but I think as Thatcher, he will do a lot of damage to the global community. I mean, how do you get up in front of the audience and say something like that he says about Gaza? You're not going to fix up your house, but you've got to leave. We're going to turn it into a Riviera. Well, it's not a Riviera at the moment, so why that's not my house you're going to fix up, that's something else. But he says it straight face with Netanyahu sitting next to him laughing. And how long is it? It's not been a month. So I think that there's some damage going to be done. We have to survive him, obviously, but I don't think it will be as easy, and we shouldn't take it for granted. There ought to be some organized anti-Trump fight back. I saw the Democrats are saying, we're going to fight it, but it didn't sound very coordinated to me, but there needs to be some. So I just really wanted to respond to that, Kwame, because it is, people have to start looking at what can be done, I think. This nightmare is there, and it's real. And I hope those people who are able to have a plan to actually deal with it. Sorry for going on, but I
it's
thought
fine. Can you link it
to
then to our topic, which is Pan-African financial institutions?
Yeah, I did want to say something about it, because I very much hear what Pigeon is saying about, do we, in essence, embrace capitalism from a Pan-African perspective, if such a thing is so if we then say that we ought to be managing the financial institute, or not be changing those financial institute to serve our aspiration and our ideology, then we're not really applying Pan-Africanism to the global financial community. So we have to go in there with a clear understanding that the way that they're doing things, the way that they I was going to say mismanaged, but it's obviously not mismanagement. It is the way they desire to manage it. We have to be changing that. The banking institute, I think, was supposed to be about assisting people bettering themselves, or at least managing themselves in the economic situation anywhere in the world that you find yourself. But the way it is at the moment, it's designed to disadvantage countries in the South deliberately. And then they micromanage it to disadvantage people from the South that are living in the West. People may not be aware of it, but there are things that happen, for instance, about loans. It was discovered, I think, in the UK that certain ethnic group were paying more for car insurance, for instance, deliberately being manipulated. So those kind of things are happening on the micro level, but on the international level, it's very much being applied. And how we get it, I talk often about the power cuts we have here in Zanzibar almost continuously. Now, what I'm told is that there's no power station on Zanzibar. The power is from Dar es Salaam, and it's on the waterbeds or brought by cable. And it wasn't designed or expected to be utilized as much. But it also means that the equipment is inferior to the task that it's supposed to do. And I think they were sold inferior equipment. This is part of the problem. And I don't think anyone's talking about it. As far as I know, they're just saying, well, we've got to get the equipment running properly. I understand the president sacked some people in the power station about a year ago, made no difference. But it looks as if the president is, she's taking a hard position. So I think economically, we need a rethink, and we need to ensure that wherever we go from here does not fall into the trap of just simply doing what capitalism have been doing, because it's been a trap for no one else but themselves, or a benefit to no one else but themselves. So I'll leave it there, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Brother Glenroy. Brother Joseph, did you have your hand up again? I know I did lower. I thought it was a legacy hand.
I have it. Because, in terms of the banking institution, even from this side of the world, it has been disadvantaged to our people, and now are we going to a cashless society, pushing at that. In fact, I listened to a conversation with Budu Banton this morning about the disappearance of records, physical records. And I was thinking, that's the same thing we're doing with currency. Disappear. When you had paper money or so, or coin, you had money. Now, somebody's controlling, is about to control whatever access you have to resources in the cloud. And we need to have conversation on this. So what has happened in recent years is that whereas in the past, banks gave interest to people for whatever small amount, now they're punishing you for not having a certain amount of money and eating up total taking charges. And I have suffered from that. I mean, I never had any big set of money in the bank, but I lost 2 accounts I had with smaller bits of money because I don't deal with the bank that much. And over years, all the money have gone to what they call charges, and also linked with money laundering and all that kind of thing that Uncle Sam, since 2001, have instituted. All the difficulty, including that NGOs have problems dealing with financial institutions. So these are some things that we need to look at seriously. And when we're thinking about financial institutions, we begin to think about a financial institution outside the frame of Western domination. And in that case, how can we encourage more cooperative kind of conception of cooperative more than any this capitalist stuff like what is being promoted by the African Import Bank, as was done by the guy, Nigerian businessman, the last few days here. We need to really, and also get our people to be financial literate. Our people don't really have much, at the grassroots level. We need to help people understand how wealth and how money is factored, and not just about, nowadays we have people going into a lot of counterfeit and so on because they want money and that kind of thing. We need to help people understand that unless you are productive, you need to be productive in order to have wealth. And for the most part, our people are being consumers rather than producers.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Joseph, once again. So we have Sister Tapua, Brother Spala, Sister Chizomo, Brother Decane, Sister Myra, and Brother Glovu, whose hand is now up. You haven't said anything yet. Those whose name I've just called, remember, we only go around on Saturday on Thursdays because we are sharing our thinking. Here, it's a public discussion, so we don't necessarily have to go round. Raise your hand if you want to speak. Of course, we don't want one or two to dominate the discussion, but if you want to speak, please raise your hand and speak. Thank you. So we now have Brother Lovo. Can you hold on? Let me ask Brother Glenroy to come in because I think he might want to come back on something, and then I'll come to you, Brother Lovo. Yes, Brother Glenroy.
It's just a quick thing. People will have heard that Trump has withdrawn funding for US aid. And as somebody who always had grave suspicion about these NGOs, and another element was brought up in a discussion, I think, on the radio today, but that first and foremost, it ought to force those nations that have been dependent, such as South Africa, actually, and I think Elder Joseph is right in the sense that it was designed to try and impact on South Africa, but somebody brought up the scenario that this will force those countries to look after their own interests and their own issues around health. Now, I mean, obviously, we have to be clear that the financial strain is a factor. But the other thing that was brought up is that the corruption that went with these NGOs and what they were doing in these countries. We heard the thing about, for example, what happened in Haiti with the charities using 60% of the money to feed themselves and 5-star hotel and 4x4, etc., etc. So I don't think they're trying to give Trump any puritanical position on it, but, appear to be saying, maybe this is a good thing. I just wonder what people here thought of that from an economic perspective. Will it stop the corruption? Because obviously these are agents of imperialism, and that's not going to stop. And will it force countries to take up seriously their own health issue that this US aid was apparently destined for? So I just thought I'd throw that on the table.
Yeah, no, it's good to throw that in. Brother Kama did ask a question whether it was a good thing or not. So I think you've answered his question also partly, in a way. USAID, I happen to be in an office with them in terms of some work they were doing in Ghana. USAID funds family planning. Their agenda is to reduce Africa's population, etc., etc., etc. They are not a good thing. I wouldn't cry if they are defunded completely, but you make the point that it's a means of redistributing wealth and so on and so forth. I think aid, global aid and aid institutions should be a different topic. I think we should at another time have that as a topic for discussion. So thank you for raising that. Brother Ndlovu.
Yes, greetings, royalties.
Greetings.
So just to comment on this, financial sector industry.
Yes.
I think we just have to understand. Yeah. I think we have to understand that the debt-based economic system, it was a creation of Western bankers. They created it and then they enforced it globally on every nation. Now, every nation that did not want to comply to their models, they intervene. I mean, World War I, World War II, even now World War III, it's always about this because they don't like the East. You see, the East has always had its own ideology about, they look at them as communists, they look at them as socialists. That's why they're against China, they're against a lot of, Germany was like that, Japan was like that. So they just fighting for this capitalist or neoliberal policy, which was an invention of a Chicago school. Now they force everybody to go with that model. So what we have to know as Africa, it's really, we need to change the entire system. It doesn't work in the way that it's enforced on us. It just actually disadvantages Africa in every way, because what ends up happening is that everything that comes out of Africa, it's priced less, whether it's our labor, whether it's our natural resources. But as soon as it touches European soil, then they have a right to elevate prices on these things. I mean, imagine our gold. We the ones who do most of the work unearthing it from our mines, and we ship it logistically to Europe. And when it's there, as soon as it touches Europe, then suddenly the price appreciates. Now they can print more money based on that gold and pay us with the paper money, so and do more, because they've elevated the price, and then they sell us things back at 100 more the cost. So it's always been disadvantaging us. So in the same way, when you talk about a salary or human resource payments, you see, whether you're a doctor that works in Australia as an African doctor, you are paid less. Whether the Australian doctor leave Australia and come here on the soil of Africa, he's still paid more, and the African doctor is paid less. So you can see that all the matrix of this financial system will always favor Europeans first. So whether it's an interest discussion, whether it's a price discussion, if something is bought and produced by Africa is worthless. If something is made in Germany, then it deserves the right price. It's the same thing. Whether if something comes out of China, it's less. Comes out of India is less. But if it comes out of Europe, then it must be paid this much. So they overinflate their own companies. Right now they talk about tech industries. We've seen the issue with the open AI versus DeepSeek. So US one is overinflated. They claim they've spent over $1 trillion developing it. China says, no, we've just only spent 200 billion. So what's the gap here? The issue is, China is honest that this thing can be done for 200 billion, same as their electric vehicles. They found good cars, good quality at low cost, but Teslas, they are extremely expensive. Now, that means US is been leading the world by over exaggerating its production, because GDP is a measure of what their companies are producing and what they are evaluated. They, by the way, who's evaluating them? They give themselves that evaluation. So who's evaluating people's debt status? What credit rating they should be? It's them. Who is defining prices of maize, gold, and things? It's them. So that means every time it suits them, even this exchange. By the way, the banks here in South Africa were the only country that put a legal case against the banks. 25 international banks were found to be manipulating forex, the exchange rate between US dollar and South African rand. And now only South Africa lodged this, and they were found guilty, 25 of the top banks. And they were slapped just with a fine. Others had to pay, 40 billion or 400 billion fine. Or a couple of millions, nothing compared to the trillions they've stolen out of South Africa by manipulating the exchange rate. So now, if you see this, that means the only way Africa will have its sovereignty and have its own wealth is to cut that system, get rid of this system, totally overhaul, and release our reserve banks from that system, create our own. and our own has to have our own currency. In fact, they always had a coming up with their own. So today, crypto is slightly different. Now, because crypto is, for the first time, it's a currency that is not regulated by, reserve banks or by governments. It's a new currency that Africa can create it easily and have its own currency, and get out of these dollars and get out of these euros and pounds. So that's all we need to do.
Baron Lovo, do you think that the BRICS are showing us the way in terms of creating a new financial architecture?
Correct. In fact, the reason today Africa can flex its muscle, especially South Africa. So South Africa has made a lot of noise. The RCG case, they made a noise against the US. It was the first time they did that. So they wouldn't have done that had they not have a backup like BRICS. Because while US makes a lot of noise about how much aid it's giving South Africa, how much trade it's giving South Africa, all of it is fluff. The real value goes with BRICS, because BRICS member countries says, look, everybody's equal. So we negotiate on the round table as equal. It doesn't matter now the size of your economy, whether you are China, Russia, but we are equal members here. We must contribute and work. The emphasis is collaboration, no bullying and no dictatorship. Whereas G7, it's just bullying and dictatorship. America makes the noise, and everybody must worship it. So I think BRICS is anyway coming into effect because of the bullying of America.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So are we going to hear from the ladies, or you're not going to say anything? Myra, Chizomo, Tapua, are you not going to say anything? Are you just going to listen today? That's what you want, that's fine. But we need to hear from you. So we are discussing Pan-African financial institutions. So that's what we are discussing. But Joseph, is your hand up again?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a legacy hand.
Yeah, no, it's up again.
A new one, okay.
Yeah, we have to realize, and these news are not filtered too. Indonesia has since joined BRICS. That is another significant blow to Western dominance. And I think we have to prepare our people for a new world order, a new thing. It wouldn't necessarily come in the morning, but we have to prepare ourselves and encourage each other to as much as well to have the kind of connection and interaction and trade and so on as much as possible. But you see, one of the problems is that it's the kind of silos we operate in. There's some information people don't get it, and the information they get is what is distorted. It's information that have them act against each other. And I think people have to understand. I've heard conversation on these kind of platforms that, well, this person is this and that person is that. We need to embrace everyone who comes. For instance, I've heard people criticize Malema and so on. But if you listen to Malema, for instance, he has a good, I think similar to what Professor Wolf have said China have done. You take the best of the both system and make it work for China. Why we can't do the same? Take whatever element, not lock, stock, and barrel, and make it work. But it has to have a Ubuntu character with it. It has to have a cooperative basis to it. And it will not be privately owned. It should be communally owned. People having the ability to, or the opportunity to do, some kind of entrepreneurial situation, but it has to be worked out. And it's not this or, either or, but it has to be the best mix. And we have to listen to people like Professor Lumumba, who have enunciated on those kind of complex, challenging situations. You have to take the best from wherever and internalize it to make it work for us. So I think our work is cut out, and we have to do deep thinking, which unfortunately is in short demand. I mean, short supply. We really need to do deep thinking.
Okay.
And make the connection, Every time we look at something, we must see how this affects. Just how you asking a question, in relation to the financial institution. Every time somebody speaks, you ask how does that, add or, complement what, situation. Hope I've made sense.
Thank you very much. Sister Myra.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. So, I just have a question so what are we going to do? That is my question. Because I feel,
with respect to,
I don't feel
with respect to what, sorry?
With respect to economic independence of Alkebulan, because I know that relying on these neocolonial leaders is not going to be the solution, because they have agendas that are not in the best interest of Alkebulan and its people. They serve other purposes. And I'm not holding my breath for that meeting that you mentioned where the finance ministers are going to meet. I'm not. This economic question of independence, a breakaway from neocolonialism, has really been on my mind, and I decided to educate myself, and that's why I've been reading the book I mentioned before by Amos Wilson, Blueprint for Black Power, because in it he talks about the Black economy, and he suggests that the people get together and invest. So, for example, the Caribbean community comes together, they form mutual funds, and then they invest in Alkebulan and vice versa. And then we start trading with each other. And then he says we get control of the wholesale and distribution networks. And he basically just builds upon a sort of an economic movement that we, the people, can come together and put together. So for me, that's where my mind is going, because I really do not expect these neocolonial leaders to do anything different other than what has been done since the so-called independence.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say.
Yeah. So Tamara, so the neocolonial leaders can't do it. So we have to have anti-neocolonial leaders in office then.
Well, what about we the people form investment mutual funds? What about we the people form movement that are carrying out economic activities?
Yeah, nothing is stopping us from doing that. In fact, the labor movement of Africa is asleep. The labor movement, and we've got some very powerful labor unions on the continent. The labor union of Nigeria alone, they command so much wealth. What are they doing with all the wealth? Membership, dues, and so on and so forth. They own buildings and property. So yeah, what you're saying can be done. And unfortunately, it's not just political leaders, these unions also are asleep. But coming back to the issue of Pan-African institutions, I think we have to accept that important of what you are saying is have to deal with continental institutions. We have to. We can't just leave continental institutions in the hands of the enemy and just think that by going about our own private cooperative businesses, then everything will be okay. I don't think so. So I think we have to engage with the continental institutions as well. Anyway, thanks for your.
I've got one more point. The previous speaker talked about BRICS, and he had nothing but praise for it. And it's true, it's challenging the hegemonic West. That's true.
No, what he said is that South Africa is able to speak the way it's speaking because of BRICS.
Yes. But then in relation to other nations that are not in BRICS, what I was thinking is the thing, we're still not in control of our economies. We're not in control of our resources. So if we are to join anything like BRICS, will we have any power still? So I feel like there's still a lot of work to be done in other African countries to gain control of their economies before we can even be a potent members of organizations like BRICS. Otherwise, we'll just keep being run over.
Yes. So what you're saying is in line with our policy, which is that Africa should liberate, unite, and develop itself.
Yes.
And then play its role in the international community.
Exactly. Otherwise, but
you are affirming our policy position. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sister Tapua.
Thank you. This is a topic that I've struggled to get my head around. Because the economy, how we're supposed to get Pan-African institutions to help us through the struggles that we're going through. Because on the one hand, we have all these thoughts that are going on that we need to action. But on the other, I'm hoping that I'm not going to cross the line here because I'm in Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe has a law that says we shouldn't be in groups where we're discussing things that might appear negative about Zimbabwe.
Right.
But here's my position. Zimbabwe has struggled to find its own feet in terms of managing its currency and its economy. My personal experience is monies have disappeared from accounts several times. We just wake up and we're told this is the new position, and people start at zero. So we are now struggling to put any money, anything that we have in a bank. And because of that, the country is struggling to collect taxes and control, because this is a club that people are voting with their feet not to belong to. In other words, Zimbabwe as a country, I think, would be better served if it belonged to a bigger and a larger Africa, as it were. Because right now, to say that the SADC meeting that was held here, was funded from the money put aside to help children who can't pay their school fees. And right now they're not in school because of that. And then to say we struggle to know where to put our money. And right now we're being encouraged to use the e-money, where every transaction that we do is taxed to the death. So we're talking about how to save ourselves as a continent, but it's also at a very personal level, where in the different countries that we are in, we're experiencing firsthand what it is to wake up every morning with money that has lost value. But you then want to come back to the continent to contribute. And people look at you and think, you must be mad. But there's no other way. I think we need to get here to experience it so that we find ways of dealing with it. But it's a real struggle. Thank you. That's my contribution for today.
Yeah, Sitapoa, thank you for your contribution. You are our last speaker. Our meeting comes to a close. It's now 8 o'clock. So our meeting comes to a close. Our next Saturday session will be agriculture. It's called the CAADP, which is a comprehensive Africa agriculture development program. So if we look at what that is, it's about our food. So we'll see what that is. and that's what we're going to be discussing, along with food sovereignty, which I think should be central to agriculture. So that is our topic for next Saturday. Brother Pigeon.
Yes, Brother Kwame.
Yes, the other announcement, so we can bring the meeting to a close. Thank you.
No, so far there's no announcement, just as to remind members that our weekly recordings will always be available by next week, probably Wednesday or Tuesday, and we also invite them to our Thursday class, which is our philosophy class, if they can join us. And to remind them, we also have a Swahili class that is going on for those who want to join us. They can also do that. We have a library as well, and we have a research platform. So anybody interested to join any of those groupings, feel free to get in touch. And just to thank you all for your time and for your contribution. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend. What's left anyway. Have a nice week, and we'll meet again next Saturday.